Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest on the heat wave that is now arriving for many areas of the British Isles. Temperatures today are rising to those high 20s, could see an isolated 30 degrees here or there, and these temperatures are going to continue over the next couple of days before ramping up from Monday to Wednesday next week, where it could get into the low to mid 30s for quite a few. So very hot conditions coming. We do have heat health alerts out from the UK Health Security Agency and the Met Office. We'll have a look at that. We've got an amber warning, level 3 alert, and we'll have a look at that, as I said. And of course we'll have a look at the temperatures over the next week or so as well. Now, of course, we have been looking at the last couple of videos the potential for a second wave of heat coming in around 7 to 10 days time. We've got very warm conditions over the next couple of days, ramping up, peaking around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time, dipping slightly with a slightly cooler air mass coming in from the northwest, and then after that there is a lot of uncertainty. We could be going incredibly hot, even hotter than what we've got coming up over the next week, or we could just stay warm. And still sort of heat wave, but not incredibly hot. There is a lot of uncertainty, and those charts we haven't looked at over the last couple of days, where it could get up to the high 30s, 40 degrees in around a week to 10 days time. We're still seeing those, just the uncertainty is still there. So we'll have a look at that as well for the mid-range. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. So if you do start on the live radar, you can see there really isn't much going on in terms of precipitation. A few isolated showers across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland, just within some thicker cloud, but you can see widely across Western and Northwestern Europe it is very dry, and that's because we've got that extension of the Azores high building in, bringing things incredibly dry. And we've almost got record-breaking high pressure, very high pressure for this time of year, that is. Because of course in the summer, yes, it's generally drier, and that's because we get we get sort of higher lows and lower highs, so pressure is not quite as extreme. So this high pressure system we have in the moment, if we saw it in the winter, it would be high pressure, but it wouldn't be anything record breaking by any means. But it's because it's coming in the middle of the summer, when things generally don't, on the pressure level, don't tend to be as extreme. So big high pressure extending in. If we do look at the 2 meter temperatures as around 3 p.m, so reaching the peak temperatures of the day, you can see incredibly warm, if not hot, across many eastern and southern areas. We've got a bit of a westerly flow with that high pressure extending in, at least initially, so areas in the northwest, towards Liverpool, up towards western Scotland, Northern Ireland and northern parts of Wales. It is still slightly cooler, still warm, still getting to the low 20s, but not those mid to high 20s, if not touching on 30 degrees that we're seeing in a few areas in the east and the southeast. You can see a few peak areas across central southern England, a few into northeastern and East Anglia, East Midlands, Cambridgeshire, peaking around that 30 degree mark, and it's just going to rise over the coming days. Could be a slight dip tomorrow back towards the mid to high 20s, but just a general warming trend, as I said before, peaking around Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time for those temperatures. So yeah, incredibly hot day today, but it's going to keep ramping up. Now, if we do have a look at those heat health alerts, we do have a level 3 heatwave warning in force. There's a 90% probability of heat health alert criteria being met between 9 a.m. on Monday and 9 a.m. on Friday in parts of England. So we've got a level 3 amber for East Anglia, London and the South East. We've got a level 2 for the rest of England, and a level 1 for northeast England, where the probability of heat wave is 30 degrees. You can see the hottest conditions are going to be in the east and the southeast, but not exclusively. So you can see there is an increased confidence that temperatures will rise through the weekend, becoming widely hot, locally very hot from Monday next week. So yes, it's very warm, hot now, but the hottest conditions are Monday to probably Wednesday, Thursday next week, because Friday it does look like it will cool down very slightly. So yeah, the highest confidence is for southeastern and eastern areas, where temperatures are expected to reach the low 30s. There increased confidence for thresholds to be reached across much of the Midlands. I'll show you the thresholds in a second, and perhaps eastern parts of southwest England and southern parts of northwest England and Yorkshire and Humber regions. Temperatures are likely to stay close to the threshold through Wednesday, especially for southern areas. there is the uncertainty in maximum temperatures for later in the week, as I said, over the following weekend, but there is potential for a brief dip in temperatures, as I said, on Thursday and Friday, although still very warm, which may still result in alert levels being reduced. This will be followed by a return to hot or very hot, and that's where we could see those high 30s, maybe getting towards our all-time temperature record from late Friday 15th into the following week. This alert will be kept under review as confidence in the forecast increases. So yeah, a level 3 warning here. Those heat health threshold values are different to the heat wave threshold. I must emphasize these are warnings. The heat wave is just so we can call it a heat wave. So for London and South East, it's 28 degrees for more than 3 days, or 3 days or more consecutively. That's a heat wave. But for heat health thresholds, we need 2 consecutive days, or at least 2 consecutive days, and the intervening night where it doesn't get below these minimums and it gets above these maximums. So for London, 32 degrees, there's a 90% chance for 2 to 3 days next week we see those temperatures in London exceed 32 degrees, southeast England 31 degrees, and other areas there's a lower chance, 60%, to be reaching those 30 degree marks. So you can see it is very, very warm, very hot. So don't get confused between these warnings and the heat wave warnings. These are for health effects, not just for meteorological sort of being able to call it a heat wave. Now, there is a national emergency value. Again, I highly doubt we'll reach this unless we do see those temperatures get into the high 30s, 40 degrees in around 10 days' time. If we did see that, that's probably the time we would see something like this, because that would be reaching all-time temperature records. So not reaching any national emergency by any means, but still very severe. And you can see national emergency reach where a heat wave is so severe or prolonged that its effects extend outside the health and social care system. At this level, illness and death may occur among the fit and healthy and not just the high-risk groups. So yeah, severe conditions from this. We do have a press release. This is on the government website, heat health alert issued by the UK Health Security Agency. This just gives us more depth. So you can see Met Office and the UKHSA have released a level 2 heat alert for South West England, East Midlands, West Midlands, North West and Yorkshire and the Humber regions, level 3 for Eastern England, South Eastern and London regions, and they are under a level 2 at the moment. Both alert levels are currently in place from 9 AM on Monday 11th of July until 9 AM on the Friday the 15th, with warm weather forecast across the country throughout the course of next week. So you can see here, heat health alerts have now been issued for the majority of the country, with temperatures set to remain consistently high throughout the duration of next week. Most of us can enjoy the hot weather when it arrives, but it's important to keep yourself hydrated, to find shade where possible when UV's rays are strongest between 11 and 3 PM, as I've said over the last few videos. If you have vulnerable family members, friends and neighbours, make sure they are aware of how they can keep themselves protected from the warm weather. And the top tips, I'll run through these quickly. Look out for those who may struggle to keep themselves cool and hydrated, especially older people with underlying conditions or who live at home. Stay cool indoors by closing curtains or in rooms that face the sun, and it may be cooler outdoors than indoors. Drink plenty of fluids and avoid excess alcohol. Never leave anyone in a closed parked vehicle, especially infants, young children, and animals. Check that fridges, freezers and fans are working properly. As I said, try to keep out the sun from 11 till 3 PM. Walk in the shade, apply sun cream, and wear a wide brimmed hat if you have to go out in the heat. Avoid physical exertion in the hottest part of the day. Make sure you take water with you, and of course check the medicines that are stored according to the instructions. So you can see, yeah, severe warnings. This is potentially quite dangerous for many next week, so please do heed the warnings and don't take any risks out there. By no means is this life-threatening. It's not a national emergency, as we saw, but it is still a severe heat wave that can and probably will, for some, cause issues. Now, if we do have a look at what is actually going on, so I'll have a look at the UKMS office run, we'll have a look at the precipitation, and then we'll have a look at the temperature as well. So we'll whiz through the precipitation because there really isn't much going on. A few showers here or there across the north and the west of Scotland, just with some precipitation trying to edge in as we do see low pressure still just to our north. Beyond that, as we head through Saturday, just precipitation to our far north, and as we head into Tuesday, we do see a weather front trying to push in, but it's just going to skirt northern areas and just drift away. By Wednesday, though, a little bit of precipitation moving in there, so we're seeing a slight feature maybe pepping up there with some thicker cloud and some showers, so it might cool it down slightly on Wednesday, and that's that uncertainty we saw with both the warnings later this week. And as I've been saying, from Thursday, Friday, there is uncertainty with the exact temperatures. And you can see why is because we got these very hot upper air conditions, 14, 15, 16 degrees at 850 HPA. And as we saw in the Weather Explainer we did a couple of weeks ago, you can see 15 degrees plus to that, especially with the heat building. That's the low 30s that we are seeing. And if we have a look at those max temperatures, you can see today peaking around that 26 to 28 degree mark. Of course, locally it'll always get a degree or two warmer than these charts are showing. So 29, 30 degrees, but widely 27, 28. Tomorrow, as I said, it's going to be slightly cooler, more widely 25, 26, so a degree or two down to peak around 27, 28 perhaps. So nothing too crazy. But still very warm, but it's going to ramp up again through Sunday with those temperatures peaking once again around that 28, maybe 29, 30, maybe 31 degree mark, and it's widespread. You can even see in Scotland mid to high 20s and across the Republic of Ireland. All countries within the British Isles are going to be getting above sort of that low to mid 20s point. And as we head through towards Monday, you see those temperatures really climbing, 31 widely across many central areas of England, and perhaps could even climb into 32, 33, maybe the isolated 34 here or there, and that continues into Tuesday as well, widely 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34 is possible. But there's a bit of uncertainty as we head into Monday. Another thing we do have a look at is, of course, the nighttime temperatures. 3 a.m. on Wednesday, many areas in England are not dropping much below 19 or 20 degrees. So it's going to be oppressively hot overnight. So please do bear that in mind. It is going to be very warm overnight. So yeah, it doesn't look great at all. Now, if we do have a look at those ensemble charts that we have been looking at over the last few videos, I have had some questions in the comments how to find these charts, and what you want to do is you want to go to all, go down to computer model charts, you can see the GFS, and you go to GFS, so the ensembles, custom data tables. You pull this up, so we want to have a look at the 2 meter max temperature. You click that there, London, and you show the table. And then, of course, this is the all. You go to the temperatures at midday. So that's how we get to these charts. I know some people have been asking because it is a little bit complicated to get to that. But you can see today, 90% of the ensemble members getting 26 to 30 degrees, 10% breaking 30 degrees at midday. So likely, as I said, to be a couple of degrees warmer than this on each ensemble member as our temperatures peak around 3 p.m. So you can see broadly what we're seeing at the moment, high 20s, low 30s. Slight dip tomorrow with more around that sort of 25, 26 degree mark, but Sunday increases to similar conditions we have today, high 20s, maybe dropping on 30 degrees. Monday even warmer with that 30 plus degree mark increasing, and by Tuesday, Wednesday you can see incredibly hot. Majority of the ensemble members, as I said, because this is midday, a lot of those still in the orange will be orangey reds will be going to the low 30s, but later in the day. So majority of ensemble members forecasting well over 30 degrees on Tuesday, Wednesday, dropping slightly on Thursday. Quite a bit of a spread. Some still very warm, some slightly cooler, as we do see the potential for cooler air starting to drift in, and again we see that on Friday. So perhaps slightly cooler on Friday before it ramps up for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Still big spread, but a good 30-40% of us getting back into the 30 degree range around midday, and of course you can count more of the orangey reds to getting to that as well. So 50, perhaps 60% of the ensemble members are pushing up back towards that 30 plus degree range around the 16th, 17th, 18th. Though slight dip around the 14th, 15th, perhaps ramping up once again, but there is still uncertainty. You can see there's some much cooler around that 20 degree mark. A minority, but still a few. So we can't say for certain it's going to ramp up very hot again, but it's looking quite likely at this stage. And even into the longer term, it still looks very warm, with majority, if not all, still in around that 21 to 25, and quite a few still at 26 to 30. And you can even rule out continued 30 plus degrees. So it does look incredibly hot indeed. And you can just run down here and you can have a look at what each of the ensemble members are actually showing, and you can see especially through that Tuesday, Wednesday mark. So many are into that low 30s, some even 34.5 degrees at midday. So yeah, a lot of hot conditions coming up over the next couple of weeks, but you can see there is uncertainty in the longer range, and it's just something we do need to keep an eye on. But of course, 12th, 13th looking incredibly hot, slightly cooler on the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, perhaps ramping up once again, and we can see that on the ensemble charts. Now you can see it is around slightly above average at the moment, that's why it's getting towards the high 20s, and you can see slightly cooler tomorrow, and that's why it's back towards the mid 20s before ramping up massively before Tuesday, Wednesday time, where it's going to get to the low 30s. But you can see we're only touching on around 15, 16 degrees at 850 HPA. Look around the 16th, 17th, 18th, where some are going between 20 and 25. So just think if those ensemble members came off, we'd be a good 5+ degrees warmer than what we're going to be next week, which would put us in that high 30s, perhaps towards the 40-degree mark. But there is still uncertainty. The majority are getting back to the same level, so low to mid 30s, so still turning very hot once again, some still cooler, and there is a trend in the longer term for temperatures to return to around average, because of course this is not going to be sustainable. We can't stay around that 30+ degree point for too long, but by this stage it would be a good 10 days plus. So longer term, around the 20th beyond, it does look like it will return back towards back more towards average. But you see incredible spread, still 5 to 10 ensemble members getting towards that 20-degree range in the longer or the mid to longer range now. And I'm pretty sure that the next probably day, maybe 2, max 3 days, we're going to be seeing this really ironed out. We're going to be seeing exactly what those upper air temperatures could be and what we're going to be seeing around that 16th to 18th of July point, whether it's still going to be very warm and hot or whether it's going to be almost record-breaking heat if we did get those upper air temperatures to around that 20-degree range. Again, minimal precipitation, I think that's a given now. We haven't seen much over the last couple of weeks, and you can see the temperatures ramping up over the next few days. Of course, these are a couple of degrees below what it would be in reality because they're low resolution ensemble members, so anything showing around 27, 28 degrees more likely to be into low 30s, and you can see that through the middle of next week, dipping to around 24, 25, so probably in reality 26 to 28 degrees, and then perhaps ramping up again, some getting towards the high 30s. That would be touching on 40 degrees in reality, quite a few getting towards that 30-degree range, which would be mid 30s around that 16th to 20th of July region, so incredibly warm. Now if we do have a look at the ECMWF ensemble members, they've a lot more clustered recently, so a lot more certainty with those. Again, not 100%, but you can see very warm this week, but you can see this climb towards early next week is giving us our low 30s. It's looking like it could be smashed out the park by another massive spike around that 16th to 20th of July point, with quite a few, I must say maybe 10 to 20 ensemble members going above 20 degrees at 850 HPA, which is incredible. That would give temperatures widely in the mid-30s, locally high 30s, potentially 40 degrees. That would be incredibly hot. One thing we do have to watch out is because it's associated with a low pressure system coming up from the south, it could also introduce thunderstorms. Something we haven't spoken about recently, as it's not really featuring in the next 7 days or so, but in the longer term we are starting to see a trend perhaps for some more thundery activity. But I'm going to leave that out for now and perhaps concentrate that on in a few days' time if we do still see that in the model output. But you can see the majority are, pretty much all are around or above average. Many are around that 15 to 25 degree range at 850 HPA, and that reflects in the 2-meter temperatures, mid to high 20s, 30 degrees over the next week, and then potentially getting towards the high 30s, maybe 40 degrees in around 7 to 10 days time. Now if you have a look at the individual models, we'll run through these really quickly, as again the ensembles is probably the best way to do this at this stage because of the uncertainty we do have. High pressure building in at the moment, really warm. And you can see by Monday time we're firmly under high pressure, very slack winds, and that's why we're going to be seeing those very warm conditions widely. You can see slight little low pressure system moving through Scotland, introducing slightly cooler air with a bit of a northerly flow. And you can see warmest air may hang on in the far south, but elsewhere going into a more fresher air mass. You get the temperature deviation slightly cooler than average, perhaps for a time, a day or two there. And you can see generally beyond that we stay very warm and potentially start to see that very hot conditions head up from the south. But the GFS operational run today goes into a westerly flow, unsettled and milder, or generally more towards average in from the west. So nothing too crazy from the operational run today. But as we saw by those ensembles, it is in the minority today. It's one of those cooler runs. Can't rule it out, but the majority are warm, if not very hot, getting towards that mid-30s range in around 8 to 10 days time. Now if you look at the GM, see how that does compare. Again, high pressure building in at the moment, controlling our weather. It turns very dry, very warm, and you see that brief cooler air mass around the 14th, 15th for high pressure builds back in, building to our east and trying to suck up that southerly flow. Again, it's difficult to follow the isobars here because it's a bit of a muddled pattern, but you can see that incredibly hot air mass spreading up from the south, consuming southern England, and you'd expect around the 19th of July, 18th, 19th of July to be seeing temperatures in the mid to high 30s, if not touching on 40 degrees. Incredibly hot indeed, and yeah, looking just absolutely baking. Very, very, very hot. Can't underestimate that potentially in the longer term, because you look at that temperature deviation, 12 degrees above average widely, and that's not what we're getting next week. Next week you can see we're only 6 to 8 degrees above average. So it just shows you, if we do see this incredibly hot air mass come up in around 8 to 10 days time, who knows what temperatures we could be seeing. Now if we do finish the video by having a look at the ECMWF, again high pressure building it at the moment, looking incredibly warm, slightly cooler upper air temperatures coming through around 14th, 15th of July before high pressure builds, moves to our east, and we start to suck up an southerly flow. Now you can see low pressure out to the Atlantic try and bump in, and that could potentially spark some thundery weather. But if you look at those upper air temperatures, incredibly hot, 20 degree isosphere moving in, look at the temperature deviation, just look at that absolute wave of 10 to 12 degrees above average spreading into England, Wales and Ireland, and that would give us temperatures into the mid to high 30s potentially. So it is looking incredibly hot over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be up and down. There are going to be days where it's just warm, i.e. mid to high 20s. There's other days where it's going to be hot, around 30 degrees, and there's potential it could be oppressively, ridiculously hot towards mid to high 30s. At the moment though, those ridiculous temperatures do not look likely within the next week. It's in that week to 10 day range we could be getting ridiculous sort of 35 plus degrees. Next week is going to be very hot, heat wave conditions, level 3 health alert, but I don't think those temperatures are going to rise much higher than around 32 to 34 degrees at this stage. Still very hot, still very dangerous, but I'm not expecting anything too ridiculous in the next week. Just very hot, sustained conditions, and then perhaps getting ridiculously hot in around 7 to 10 days time, as we have been alluding to. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please do stay safe out there and do heed the warnings, and I'll see you again for another video soon.